Imagine being torn from your family, shoved into a 3-foot wide tunnel, and left to rot for 500 days, just so your captors could use your body as a bargaining chip. No food, no goodbye, no hope. This isn't a story from 100 years ago. It just happened a few months ago, and yet the world has already moved on. Today, you're going to hear the raw, brutal truth of what Hamas did to innocent civilians and why so many people still refuse to talk about it.
And here was like a platoon of Hamas terrorists.
October 7th, Hamas didn't so much storm into Be'eri as breeze in.
Filming me.
Like they had all the time in the world?
All the time on the world.
And there was no IDF, there was no
None.
security forces at all?
None. It was so shocking to see them here.
8 of Tal Shoham's family members, including his wife and 2 children, were huddled in the safe room there.
It's not safe anymore.
Terrorists pried through the steel door exterior, were now shooting directly into the bulletproof glass.
No, I knew that the bulletproof window can only hold a little time until it will break apart. So I decided that when they will open a 10 centimeters hole in it, when it's wide enough to throw a grenade inside, I will surrender. All the women and the children was under the bed. So I said, I'm sorry, but we need to surrender. And Adi, my wife, said, no, don't do it. And I told her, like, very boldly and very coldly, there is no other options.
Gunmen pulled him out of the window and marched him away. Tal took us back to Be'eri, where 102 people were killed. It was the first time he'd been back since his capture.
So in that moment, like, the last words that you said to your wife were, we've got to surrender. There's no other option.
Yeah.
There's no goodbye, there was no I love you.
No, nothing.
He was bundled into the trunk of a car that bumped into Gaza, one of 250 people Hamas kidnapped into Gaza that day. Late last month, Tal was part of the last group of hostages released during a 6-week ceasefire, during which hundreds of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel were released. About a month into his captivity, 2 hostages were brought into the safe house in which he was being held in Gaza, Evyatar David and Guy Gilboa Dalal, kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival. The 3 would be together for the next 470 days, as close as brothers. They were intentionally starved and abused for the next 500 days, but for Tal, the worst torment was the uncertainty about his family.
All day long, to think they are alive, they are dead, and try to like feel how it will be to be released and to be with only one of them or 2 of them after, or with none of them.
And so on day 46, he mentally buried them.
I imagine like a big grave and 2 small ones with all of my community in my village behind me, and like I gave a speech to every one of them. And
the mental torture is astounding.
And it was the toughest thing that I did in my life.
On the 50th day, his captor showed him a letter from his wife Adi saying she was well and their children and members of their family would be released soon.
I went to our room and told Evyatar and Guy that they are alive and safe, and then told them I will go to cry in my bed. I just had this amazing relief cry, because I held myself until then. It's the first time that I cried in Gaza. Now the burden of the family can get off me, and I can just think on my own survival now.
Which would be increasingly difficult.
Then we started a phase of almost 2 months of extreme starvation.
Their gums began to swell, teeth loosened, limbs ballooned.
Well, it started like a big blue sign on my leg, and then all my leg become like a disco party, like a purple, blue, yellow, all the colors. And I couldn't walk for more than a month.
Of the 8 people in the safe room with Tal, 7 had been kidnapped and his father-in-law murdered. Every one of the other 20 neighbors on their street were killed. Round after round of negotiations failed as the war and Israel's bombardment intensified. More than 48,000 Palestinians were killed in Israel's devastating assault on Gaza. More have been wounded, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. Eventually, Talgai and Eviatar were promised they'd be sent to a doctor, and they were put into a Red Crescent vehicle, but it was driven by Hamas.
And then after 20 or 25 minutes of driving, they stopped the car, took us again blindfold, and then we started to walk downhill in the sand, and suddenly the atmosphere changed, and I knew that we entered a tunnel.
A portal to a side tunnel was opened up, and Tal, Eviatar, and Guy were pushed in. Israeli hostage Omer Venkat had already been inside for 300 days.
We went through it, and then I heard someone, Israeli, Omer Venkat, they told him, "We got you company." Then I understood that it's over. I mean, we're gonna stay here until the end in this tunnel.
Over the past 18 months, the IDF taking us in to some of those tunnels.
It's hot and damp in here.
Those 4 hostages were in a tunnel that was less than 3 feet wide, less than 40 feet long, a 120 square foot tomb.
We had 4 mattresses on the ground, which we slept on and lived on. Then 1 meter like empty space on the sand, and a hole in the ground, which was our toilet.
Eventually, these disturbing images of emaciated hostages backfired, and Tal and the others were given bigger rations.
I mean, they actually told us a few weeks before that they won't feed us well because they want us to get released really, really in bad shape to put pressure on the Israeli people. And it backfired on them.
To put pressure on the Israeli people, to put pressure on their government so that they would do a deal.
Yeah, exactly. And it backfired, so they started to feed us more, like twice or even more.
You didn't get a chance to say goodbye to your family in that room behind me.
Yeah.
But you did get a chance to say goodbye to Eviatar and Guy.
Yeah.
What did you say to them?
I asked them to be strong. I assured them that I really believe that in the end, I don't know how much time it will take, but they will be released also. And I told them that I assured them that we will fight for them and we will tell their story.
Unbeknownst to Tal, among the spectators at his release ceremony in Gaza were Guy and Eviatar. They were brought in a van, the door sliding open for them to cruelly witness the freedom they might never enjoy. And then Hamas filmed them pleading for their release.
I just want them to get out of there as soon as possible and to come back to their families. It was really relaxing to arrive.
Shortly after, he was handed over to the Red Cross at a military checkpoint on Gaza's border.
I get off the vehicle and they asked me if I need something, so I said I need a bathroom. And I went to the bathroom, like closed the door, see that nobody is seeing, and then I started to dance like that I'm finally outside. I mean, finally home. It's not home yet, but it's the closest thing that I had until then.
The cruelty and the brutality of these savages is just astounding. And I think one of the reasons why a Western mind doesn't accept the brutality is because a Western mind, thank God, is not so brutal, is not exposed to this, and therefore it's hard for them to believe that humans would just do these things. But they actually live by this as a value system. And anyone raised in Gaza, and you can listen to many interviews of many individuals who are raised in Gaza, will tell you they are raised as young children, exposed to a fierce brutality and encouraged and sometimes pushed and forced to act this way. And when you do that, you end up creating monsters, which is exactly what Hamas is.